Hello there, this is Sean Connery.
The resemblance is uncanny.
Welcome to the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Hello, welcome to an episode of Vertigo Voices.
Hello there.
This is Colby.
This is Sophia.
And we are watching LXG, the most extreme gentleman to ever be in a league. That was actually the theme song that was just playing. It was just like on the title screen for the DVD. So I really like that music, but it's not actually in the movie.
It's not in the movie?
No. It was in the original teaser trailer, and they composed music. Well, I assume that's composed for the teaser. I have no idea what that music's from, but they filmed footage. There's little flashes of footage in the background there, too. They filmed footage just for the teaser, and then used that music for it.
Oh.
And then none of that footage or that scene right there of him putting his coat on, that's only in the teaser. That scene of the bats forming Mia was only in the teaser. And that scene, just quick flash of Tom Sawyer fucking around with his gun was in the teaser.
All just lures to try and draw us in.
Anyway, so today we're watching League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the 2003 film, directed by Stephen Norrington, starring Sean Connery and Peter Wilson and Tony Curran and Jason Fleming and Richard Roxburgh and some other people. Oh, Nasiruddin Shah, Stuart Townsend. This is just all off the top of my head.
Well done. No. I was struggling to remember there for a moment.
Did I say Shane West? That's Shane West.
You did say Shane West, yes.
He plays Tom Sawyer. Okay, let's get the movie going. We're on the main menu screen of the DVD, and we're going to hit play in 3, 2, 1, play! Now, it shows them all real quick.
Very saturated color. I don't remember the movie itself being so...
Colorful?
Yeah.
There's a fair amount of color. It's not that much, but yeah. So this movie came out in 2003, and it was written by James Robinson. Do you know anything about James Robinson?
I know nothing of him.
He wrote the greatest comic book of all time. My favorite comic book of all time. Do you remember what that is?
He wrote Hellblazer?
No.
Okay.
Starman!
Oh, Starman! Excuse me! All right. My bad.
Hellblazer is really good. I like that fade into the 20th Century Fox.
That is a good fade.
Starman is like the best A to B to C comic. Like it's 70 issues, just one big story. Hellblazer has stops and starts and various creative teams, but James Robinson wrote all of Starman and from beginning to end, and it's a fucking gorgeous comic. But he wrote this movie too, so, well, we all have our ups and downs.
Yeah, right. We can't all be successful at everything we try. A new age dawns.
I do like the opening to this. I mean, it's a cool... And this movie had just really expansive sets, too. Like, just huge sets.
I like the world building that they did here.
Hey, Don Murphy, the producer, Don Murphy. I've gotten into screaming arguments with him.
Have you really?
Yeah. I mean, not like literally screaming, but on message boards.
Oh, hey, wait a minute. Last time I told you I got in an argument with someone on a message board, you were like, is that really a productive use of your time,
Yeah,
Sophia?
well, this is 2003 I'm talking about.
Right.
Jesus, not today. Christ.
I've grown since then.
This movie was probably the first that I followed the production of,
Okay.
This was kind of like the early days of real deep internet culture. Did I mention Peter Wilson? Yeah, I think so. She plays Mina. Anyway, this was like the early days of real like deep internet culture. So this was the first movie that I was able to see like production stills of and like spy video and, this guy, Max Ryan, is playing a character named Dante. And everyone speculated that was going to be Dante Alighieri. And it's like, I think it's just a dude named Dante.
Sorry to disappoint.
Yeah. But, and so because of that, Don Murphy, the producer, would like go into the IMDb message boards and just argue with people.
Oh.
And I got into a big argument with him over the character of Tom Sawyer. And he doesn't call me by name, but he actually brings up the argument on the commentary for this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, now I must know, like, what was it about the character of Tom Sawyer?
Well, first of all, Tom Sawyer's not in the book.
No, he's not. Yeah.
Also, what's like the defining time period of Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn and all that?
Pre-Civil War.
Yes, exactly. Civil War was what? 1860.
1865 was when it ended.
Yeah,
I think.
So yeah, 1860s-ish.
Yeah.
Let's say there. So Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn would have been kids in the Civil War. Mm-hmm. This movie specifically takes place in 1899. Yeah. Tom Sawyer is what, 20, 25 in this?
25 max. Yeah. You know.
So he should be like a 50-year-old, he shouldn't be this young, strapping dude.
He should be the Alan Quartermain.
Yeah, exactly. And Don Murphy argued about this by claiming that, well, this version of Tom Sawyer is based on a book that, what's his name, Mark Twain wrote called Tom Sawyer Detective. And it was like a later adventure of Tom Sawyer's life. And it was written in the 1890s, and Tom Sawyer was like in his 20s. Like, okay, great, it was written in the 1890s, or even if that's when it was, I can't remember exactly. But that doesn't mean that that's when it was set, you fucking idiot.
No. And that's just such bullshit. I mean, the only reason Tom Sawyer is in this movie is because they wanted an American.
Yeah, they wanted a young, strapping, muscle-bound, greased up abs American to point guns and shout slogans,
Pretty much. Well, and I think this came out before or around the same time as A Walk to Remember, which is, your typical, every 5 years or so, Nicholas Sparks sacrifices a child and gets a movie made out of one of his books, and Shane West was in that, and so all high school girls, myself included to some extent, were like, oh my god, Shane West!
It's a decent special effect, by the way.
All the special effects in this movie are good. It looks good. Like, there's a lot in here that I think...
It looks good for the most part. There's some scenes that haven't aged well.
I imagine not. But it's...
Europe on the brink of war!
More German lies.
Pretty sure that's not Kenya.
I wonder. I don't know.
But, so when this movie came out, like, I was a huge fan of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen novel, or graphic novels. I still am. And it's a series that's still going, by the way.
Is it still?
The last volume, called The Tempest, was last year.
Oh, very well then.
Yeah. I haven't read the newest volume, though, but I've read everything else, and it's just a great, like, painfully dense series. The first volume is less so. It's just more you can follow the action. But the later series, like, it requires so much prior knowledge of antiquated historical or antiquated fictional characters that it's almost unreadable. And that's what I love about it.
Well, it kind of gets a little bit in the weeds, but I think it's one of those, from what I've read, it's, if you're willing to sit with it, it's very rewarding.
Yeah. There's a guy named Jess Nevins who has a website just full of annotations for the novels or for the comics. And I love that. Every time a new volume comes out, I grab the volume, I go onto his website on my Kindle, and I just set them side by side and literally read the panel and then read what the references are in that panel. Back
Excellent.
and forth. And I love it. It takes me like hours to get through a single issue, but I fucking love it. And then, I'm that committed to this series, and I love being forced to learn about stuff that I would have never dreamt of otherwise.
That has its place. And it is a lot of fun.
There's the incomparable David Hemmings as the imposter Quartermain here.
He's been in so much stuff. Like, I recognize his face. Right now, the only thing I can think of is he's like the MC in Gladiator.
Yeah.
But I know he's been in a ton of other stuff.
He was in, was it Blowout? Is that the name of the movie? Blow Up? I can't remember. Maybe from like the 70s. And there's good old Sean Connery. He's reading a copy of The Strand magazine there.
Is he?
Yeah, which was where Sherlock Holmes was introduced.
Oh, excellent. I like that.
Toddle off. Toddling. So when this movie came out, like I said, I was a huge fan of this comic, and I fucking hated this movie when it came out. I was angry that it was this version of the story, that it was so far removed from the comic. There was actually a lawsuit because it, who was it? I want to say John Landis had written or was developing a script called Cast of Characters in the mid to early 90s that was about historical characters coming together. Like, I think Alan Quartermain may have been in it, coming together to fight against Moriarty and Dorian Gray.
Oh.
And specifically, what's his name? Fucking the idiot, little kid. The detective, Tom Sawyer. Specifically, Tom Sawyer was in it, and Dorian Gray were in it, and they were on opposite sides. And they sued, and 20th Century Fox fought the lawsuit, and the lawsuit essentially accused Alan Moore of writing his comic as cover for the studio to then buy it and then rip off the screenplay. And Alan Moore said that he had to give an 8-hour deposition explaining, what the comic. And that was what got him to say, "Fuck Hollywood, I'm not working with you assholes anymore."
Jesus.
And that's why his name is no longer on any of his adaptations. And so people like to be like, "Oh, crazy old or cranky old Alan Moore doesn't like fucking Hollywood," and blah blah blah. But he has a really good reason for not liking Hollywood, and I completely understand his anger and his reaction to that. Obviously, in reality, his comic has nothing to do with Cast of Characters. And at the end of that lawsuit, 20th Century Fox settled.
Really?
So basically admitting guilt.
Jeez.
And his name is now always tied to that. and just as a professional, he felt like that was just the ultimate betrayal, because he felt like that's true. Like they wanted to do this screenplay, but they didn't want to buy it, so they bought this comic for cheaper and then used that basis to jam in this other screenplay.
Oh, that is pretty low if that is the case.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, who knows? I mean, sure, it certainly sounds like that's what happened, but I mean, who knows? But I just feel bad for Alan Moore, because he got fucked over by all this, and now he's angry.
No, I don't blame him. 8-hour deposition.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah.
His quote was, he would have had less explaining to do had he crushed a bus full of nuns into a ravine.
Well, it doesn't sound like he'd be wrong on that front.
So anyway, because of all of that, I hated this movie when it came out. I hated that it was different than the comics. I hated all that, and I was just angry about it. I've watched it since, and I actually enjoy the hell out of it now.
That's fair. That's fair. We said earlier, I'm coming from the opposite side because I had never read The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. My friend Cedar and I were just super psyched because here was a movie that put all of these literary characters that we knew and loved together into an action film. And it wasn't until, probably when I was in my early 20s that I finally read this. And I was like, that is vastly different. And I still have a soft spot for this in my heart. But there are some parts that haven't aged that well. And again, when you look at just volume 1, there's some narrative changes that it's like, well, you can tell that the studio did it because, the big star here is Sean Connery. And
yeah, so in the comics, Quartermain is an old opium fiend.
Right.
Who has faked his own death so he can just smoke opium all day and drift slowly into death. And in this, he's still he's the big hero. And in the comic, he's not the leader of the team. It's Mina. Mm-hmm. And in fact, Alan Moore said that he almost changed the title of the comic. Instead of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, he was going to call it League of Extraordinary Gentlefolk, because Mina's the leader. And he decided in the end to keep gentlemen. And he said, because realistically in the 1890s, they wouldn't have given a shit.
No, that's true.
It doesn't matter if you're... It could be a team of all women and one man, and it would still be called gentlemen.
Exactly.
So he said it just narratively, it felt more realistic to call it gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. And I like how in the book, too, the guy who's kind of pulling the strings is James Bond, his great-grandfather or his grandfather?
Oh, yeah. I think it's his grandfather, Campion Bond.
Yes. And who was kind of a dick.
Yeah, oh, he's totally. In later volumes, James Bond shows up.
Oh, does he?
But legally, they can't call him James Bond, so his name's Jimmy.
Oh, there you go.
And he works for British Secret Service, and he, you can tell that there's a connection because he has Campion Bond's cigarette case. Ah. And in fact, that cigarette case shows up in this movie, but not, obviously, since Campion Bond isn't in it, it's actually going to show up in about 2 minutes. M has the cigarette case in the movie. When he's introduced, he's tapping it.
Okay, that's clever.
But yeah, and in the comic, there's all the speculation that M is actually Mycroft Holmes. They bring it up quite a bit, and then in the end, it's revealed to be Moriarty, which is the same reveal here. But there's no dramatic weight to Moriarty being introduced in this movie.
No.
They don't explain who he is, and they don't explain how Quartermain knows him. Quartermain's like, or should I say James Moriarty? I'm like, what? I'm like, how did you get there?
Point A to point B.
Yeah. In the comic, they find out because the Invisible Man sneaks in and hears him saying his plan or whatever. Or is that? I can't remember. Whatever.
I can't remember either. It's been a long time since I've watched this.
Around the world in 80 days.
Phileas Fogg.
Phileas Fogg is, they're actually doing a new adaptation of Around the World of 80 Days with David Tennant as Phileas Fogg.
Oh, that should be interesting.
So yeah, we're about to meet M.
Oh, Sean
Slowly.
Connery. Rest in peace.
Yeah, he just died a few weeks ago, huh?
I think yeah. Either last week or the week before.
Ripe old age of 90.
Yeah. Wasn't this the movie that made him retire?
Yeah, this movie sunk a lot of careers, man. He and Stephen Norrington butted heads like crazy. They both hated each other. Stephen Norrington left Hollywood, and Connery retired. And he didn't do any other... I mean, he did some voice roles here and there, but he didn't do any other live action. So from 2003 to 2019, he...
Yeah. I think that what they tried to get him to...
Cigar case.
Ah, there it is. And now that I've read the comic book too, it would be nice to rewatch this and actually see the small little nods that they...
Like right here. Here's all the nods.
He's like,
right
wait
here,
for
there's the past league portraits they show. There's... Fucking show it, goddammit.
It's coming. It's coming. Just M.
Just M. There's one of the leagues, like the Spider or the Black Spider, and maybe Robin Hood and Ivanhoe, I think, were the other two.
Oh, yeah.
And then right there's Hawkeye Bumpo, the Reverend Dr. Sin, Percy Blakeney, the Scarlet Pimpernel, and there's another, I can't remember the other one. Oh, Lemuel Gulliver.
Oh,
yeah. That's
really cool.
There's the Three Musketeers.
Oh, there you are.
And I don't know who that other one is. Maybe that one's Ivanhoe. I can't remember. But all those paintings are like big in the book as well. Like you see them like up close. Get to pore over the references. Yeah, I can't remember who's in that one. But yeah, that's fun that they have the past leagues in here at least. Okay, so the bad guy, they call him the Phantom. Oh, very operatic. But did you notice they spell it with an F?
They do.
Because it's a reference to Phantoma. A poster in my hallway.
Oh, yes. All right. Oh, the layers.
And in the comics, Phantoma actually shows up with... Oh, I think it was in the 1920s or 30s. There's this French league called Les Hommes Mystérieux. And, yeah, they show up and have like a battle with the league. There's old Richard Roxburgh. He had quite a run in Hollywood for a few years there. He was in this. He was in Van Helsing as Dracula.
That's right.
He was in Mission Impossible 2 as like the bad guy's sidekick.
Oh, I totally forgot that. I remember him from Moulin Rouge. Yeah. I think, someone's going to call me on this, but I think he's like the only actor to play both Moriarty and Sherlock Holmes. I
think there's been others, I believe. I think maybe Christopher Lee?
Oh, he's done both?
Maybe. I can't remember. I remember like reading that. There's a couple, I think. Fuck. I don't know. Don't quote me.
Well, me neither. I'm not entirely sure.
I really like this too. One of the things I really like about the movie that they didn't change is Nemo.
Yes.
He's played by Nasiruddin Shah in this. And in the original 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Nemo's nationality is not really addressed. But there is a scene in there where he meets an Indian diver or somebody who's stuck on a raft or something, and he talks about like the common bond between them or something. But then in the sequel series, or the sequel novel, The Mysterious Island, it's revealed that Nemo's real name is Prince Dakar, and he's from India. And I really like that Alan Moore did that in the comic. I mean, obviously he looks exactly the same between the comic and movie. And I really like that they kept that. Because it would be really easy to whitewash that character like has been done in every other adaptation.
Yeah. James Mason. Yeah. That is pretty cool that they did that.
And I fucking love Tony Curran in this movie. He plays the Invisible Man.
Okay, I was like, who does he play?
So legally, he can't be the Invisible Man. He can't be the Invisible Man. Because in the comic, the Invisible Man's name is Holly Griffin. Mm-hmm. In the original Wells novel, his name is just Griffin. And Alan Moore gave him the name Holly Griffin as kind of a reference to real-life murderer Holly Crippen.
Oh.
So he called him Holly Griffin, but the name Griffin, I believe, is under copyright because of Universal, owns the Invisible Man, Monsters, whatever. So they had to change his name from the Invisible Man, Holly Griffin, to an Invisible Man, Rodney Skinner.
It's those tiny little words that matter.
But I fucking love him in the role. I think he's great. I call it an automobile. I fucking hate that. Here's one of the few lines that's right out of the comic. Right here.
Here we go.
Say it, you bastards.
It's coming. It's coming.
This is my first mate. Call me Ishmael.
Yeah.
Although that's in completely differently in the comic. In the comic, Nemo is chatting with Ishmael, and they're trying to work out some problem, and he's like, yes, well, thank you for your help, first mate. And he's like, please, sir, call me Ishmael. You've known me long enough.
Nice little addition there. I think this probably also killed Petra Wilson's...
Peta Wilson?
Peta. Her potential film career, because she was pretty hot at the time. She was in... Was it the TV?
La Femme Nikita was a few years before this. Yeah, she hasn't really done much movie work. She was in Superman Returns.
Was she?
This isn't her only comic book movie. Yeah, she is on the airplane scene. She's like the person that's showing off their airplane that can fly to space or whatever.
Oh.
And then Superman saves it when Richard Branson crashes it. Richard Branson's in that scene too.
Well, I totally missed out on that one.
I love this one. I've buried 2 wives and many lovers. And I'm in no mood for more of either. And then Skinner here. You can sit in my way if you like. Skinner, shut up. Okay, I opened to the title page of the comic because right here, there's 2 references of the comic in this scene. We go to the East London Docks. I believe this is Limehouse, but they don't ever call it that. Limehouse is where the conclusion of the comics takes place. The first volume. So there's volcanoes on Mars, and then right there, that big poster is the same.
Oh, awesome.
But the volcanoes on Mars, that's a reference to the second volume. Because in the second volume of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, they fight the Martians from War of the Worlds.
That's right. Doesn't John Carter show up too?
Yes, John Carter and there's another character. There's another like Martian fiction character shows up at the beginning of that one too. They don't interact with the actual League, but the first volume is all set, or the first issue of Volume 2 is all set on Mars.
Okay, yeah. Well, that is again, a good nod. A nice add-in. You can tell they were paying attention to some of the details.
Just they knock the door and he's like right there.
Yeah.
But then when you see his house, it's fucking huge. Like, so is he just like, any second now, they'll come a-knocking. Although, who knows, because he's supposed to be the duplicitous bad guy, and they use him. So if M's plan is to take the powers of the League, that's another thing about this movie. The logic makes no fucking sense. It's just a dumb action movie. It's like a Michael Bay movie with wigs and beards.
And bustles.
Yeah. But, so if their powers, like, if his plan is to take the power of the League, he already has Dorian Gray on his side, who's fucking immortal, who can't be killed. Like, do you need anything else?
Right. Right. Like, yeah. Alan Quartermain is cool, but he's, an aging human.
Plot point here. So they say, "Oh, you're missing a painting, Mr. Gray," implied that it's his painting. And then later in the movie, he talks about how he can't look at the painting, or else he'll die. So then why would he just hang it on his wall?
Right.
Does he have to close his eyes every time he walks by? Oh, can't look at that, or else he'll die. Also, the literary nerd in me here is going to pipe up, because if he can't see his own painting, that completely diminishes the entire point of the story, A Picture of Dorian Gray. The whole point is that he looks at the painting and he sees what he's become in it. Mm-hmm. He's forced to confront that every time he looks at it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he's a great-looking guy in day-to-day life, but he looks at his painting and it's just, he's turning into a monstrosity, basically. Sorry,
makers of this movie, but do you think you're better than Oscar fucking Wilde? Because you're not!
Never!
Should Africa would never allow me to die. So the comics has a similar plot point with him, like, because at the end of this it's implied that he comes back to life. Spoiler alert! In the comics, it's similar to that in that he and Mina find the Fountain of Youth. Mm-hmm. And so then he he gets young again. And he pretends to be Alan Quartermain Jr.
That's what it is. Okay. All right.
Many years ago at Eton College. Yeah, you're going to hear a lot of Sean Connery impressions in this one, just so you know.
Well, it's just so much fun to do.
Also, I would highly recommend buying this DVD just to listen to the commentaries. Because it has a few different commentaries. There's a really good one that's the cast commentary, and unfortunately, it cuts back and forth between cast members. They're not all there together. But Jason Fleming and Tony Curran are together. And hearing them talk about the making of this movie is fucking hilarious.
Is it?
Like, they must have had just the best fucking time hanging out together. But then, like, Tony Curran has a story about golfing with Sean Connery. And he does a really good Sean Connery impression. And he's complaining because Sean Connery tried to steal his ball. And he's like, "No, Sean, I'm playing a Titleist. This is my ball. It's not yours." He's like, "Now pick up the ball, boy, and look at it." And he's like, I picked it up, and sure enough, on the side, you know what he has printed? 007.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, okay, Sean, it's your fucking ball, okay?
All right. Worth it for just the commentary alone.
And then there's a whole bit where they talk about being on one of the red carpets and being interviewed. And this person was like, "Hey, if you could each be a member of the league, what would it be?" And he said that Tony Curran said that he was like half paying attention. And he was like, "What?" And like, "If you could be any member of the league or have any of the league's powers, who would it be?" And he said that Jason Fleming was like, "I would like to be invisible, because that way I could run very fast and no one could see me." And then they get to Tony Curran, and he's like, "I find something very sexual about blood. I think I'd like to be a vampire and just kind of tear into throats and just feel the arousal of blood dripping down my throat." And he said, the guy was like, "Okay." He's like, and then afterwards, Jason Fleming was like, "What the fuck were you doing?" He's like, "What?" He asked me. He's like, that was fucking Disney Channel."
Oh, the commentary sounds better than the actual movie. Okay. Well, you gotta try and make your best go of it.
I love, so like they're all shooting here, and then there's just endless amounts of book pages raining down from the sky.
Right.
Like, they haven't shot that much to shred the entire fucking library.
It's like a ticker tape parade.
Yeah. Oh. I totally forgot to mention a minute ago, when they introduce Connery, that trailer I was telling you about that had like the new footage filmed for it, it opens with Sanderson Reed sitting down with Quartermain and saying like, "We're on the brink of World War." And Quartermain goes, "And that notion makes you sweat?" And he goes, "Heavens, man, doesn't it you?" And he goes, "This is Africa, boy. Sweating is what we do." And then like, and I remember seeing that trailer and being like, that's what they filmed. That's not going to be in the movie. That's a stupid fucking line. There's no way that's going to be in the movie. And then the movie comes out like, oh God, they put that in. Oh God, no, don't do that.
That was the one thing from the trailer they left.
Yeah. There's Dante. He says, "Run, James." They're your first hint that that's James Moriarty.
Yeah.
Doing his fucking haymakers.
That, well, now that you just said that, because again, it's been a long time since I've seen this movie, and yeah, like, "Run, James." It's like, what What?
It's just an obvious, like, oh, I wonder where they put that in. Like, I don't know.
Who could it be?
Again, there's no connection, though. Sherlock Holmes isn't in this.
No.
I understand. I mean, Moriarty's a great literary villain, so I totally understand using him. But there should have been some connection to the other characters. Right. Or just a line. Oh, James Moriarty? You mean Sherlock Holmes' nemesis? Because the only thing they say is... Quartermain reveals, like, oh, James Moriarty. And he's like, he goes, that man died at Reichenbach Falls. Like, yeah, then why are you here then? Like, again, please explain. The comic book, when they reveal it's Moriarty, there's a whole flashback where it shows the battle at Reichenbach Falls. Where that is.
Where are you at?
I don't know. Fuck, I can't find it. But anyway, it shows the Battle of Reichenbach Falls. You see Moriarty fall to his death and then survive. And then it's implied that he has his sniper, Sebastian Moran, kill Sherlock.
The connection is there. There it is. Yeah.
So they actually show the scene. So like they have their little back and forth. Sherlock's even fucking in it. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and it's implied that Sherlock's a member of the League.
Aha!
That little logo of
the
mysterious man. You see him fall. I just love when he falls. God! May God strike you. May God rip your bowels out. You sodomitic, drug-addicted. God.
He's all sorts of screwed up. But yeah, just like just even a brief moment like that, if they had that in here, I'd be like, oh, okay. But
yeah, and well, that's another thing. The whole purpose or the whole inciting incident is completely different in both too. In this, they're trying to stop World War I. A few years before it happens? Like, who cares? It's going to happen anyway.
Right. The timeline is a little wonky.
Yeah. But in the comic, it's all about Moriarty getting into like a turf war with the Devil Doctor, quotes, that's supposed to be Fu Manchu. Oh. But legally they can't say that, so they just call him the Devil Doctor. And it's about them having like a turf war trying to destroy London. And Moriarty finds this element called Cavorite from First Men on the Moon, whatever. That story about Professor Cavor going to the moon. And he uses that, like that's like the MacGuffin. They're all trying to get the Cavorite because he can create flying ships with it. None of that's in the movie. No. and that's another thing that Don Murphy, fucking piece of shit Don Murphy, calling you out, Don. He was like, he fucking slagged off the comic by saying like, yeah, the movie's about World War. Like, that's a way bigger stakes than some stupid rock. It's like, fuck you piece of fucking shit. There's a reason why Quentin Tarantino tried to strangle you.
Did he?
Yes.
Okay, well, now you have to tell me that story.
I don't know. I wasn't there. Apparently, they got into some argument, and Tarantino, like, choked him, and so then he sued Tarantino. Oh, this was, like, early 90s.
Well, apparently Mr. Murphy has a penchant for that.
Yeah. Pissing people off, yeah. He just looks like one of those guys. He looks like one of those guys that's like you think you're a lot cooler than you are, you fat shit.
Oh. Well, most of us do, but then there are some people who just totally wear it on their sleeve.
He looks like one of those like troglodytes living in his mom's basement, typing away on the internet. I saw like a good picture from 2003. There he is.
Well, hi, Don.
That's him, like, more today, though. I want to see, like... Because he had, like... He had, like, like this. Look at that. He was looking at, like, teenage haircut.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Well, and the idea that that's higher stakes, it's like, no, it's not. There's really no stakes in this movie. Like, just because, like... Again, World War, like, how many times has that been used in action movies? Like, oh, we have to prevent, you know?
It's been so overused. They had a sequel in real life.
Right? Exactly. Which went totally over budget.
Yeah, exactly. World War II. You thought the last one was bad. Well, guess what? This time there's genocide.
It's like, oh, whoa, stop. Tone it down a little bit. And just, like, again, like, it's exciting to see these literary characters come to life on the screen, but
He just what's his name? They're introducing the Nautilus, and what's his name? Little Tom Sawyer goes, "Is it a boat?" And he goes, "It travels on the water, if that's what you mean, and beneath it." But literally speaking, ships aren't called boats. Only submarines are. So he's actually correct, completely correct, in calling it a boat. And look at how fucking big that is. Jesus God, it's like the fucking Titanic.
It is.
It's ridiculous.
It is.
And the design is just so modern and weird. I don't like that. Paris. Like, next stop, Paris. Paris!
It looks almost exactly like London, except there's the Eiffel Tower right there.
Here's another reference to the comics where he says a big monkey. This big monkey has terrorized the Rue Morgue for months.
Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the comic, they go to find him, and they talk to C. Auguste Dupin, or Dupin, however you pronounce his name. That's the detective who solved the murders of the Rue Morgue. And they say something like, "Oh yeah, there's this series of murders now. Like it's like people. It looks like they've been torn apart by an animal." And Dupin is like, he says something like, "Yeah, I solved a case kind of like that a few years ago. Turns out it was just a fucking monkey with a razor blade, though." So.
Yeah, really not one of Poe's strongest for me.
I fucking love that. I love that idea that it's not like there's not some big grand scheme. Like it's just random chaos.
A monkey with a razor blade.
That is fucking brilliant. Because so rarely in life is that the case. Like terrible things happen just because the universe is random and doesn't care about us.
That is true. That is true. But I don't know. Monkey with, there have been worse plot lines, I suppose.
Hey, we're still talking about it 150 years later, or however long.
Oh. Well, and we're actually watching something with a worse plot line right now. So.
Yeah, that's true. I fucking love Jason Fleming. And I really like the design of Hyde. I think the plot of Hyde or whatever, I don't know, it completely falls down. Like he's still using the serum, which is dumb. Because even at the end of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, he's already evolved to the point where he doesn't need the serum to change.
Right, yeah.
There's a giant hat he made himself.
Like you do. But, and that's kind of, again, one of these things that this movie never capitalizes on. Hunch too dangerous for one. Is that they kind of build up these, I guess, side narratives for these characters. Like for Edward Hyde, like he's supposed to be so conflicted that he's this monster, and it never really goes anywhere. Yeah. Well,
there is a payoff for it in that he's able to like work together. Like, what's his name? Jekyll accepts Hyde at the end. Yeah. There's that scene where he sees himself in the reflection and he goes, "Bravo, Eddie!" And so, like, that's the point, but that's fucking dumb. Because Edward Hyde is not supposed to be, it's not supposed to be salvageable, you know? In the comic, the only way he finds redemption is by letting himself get killed. Like, he sacrifices himself to save the League, and this is the only possible way to gain any sort of redemption.
Well, and in the comic book, too, from what I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like, it's kind of fascinating in that he is the only character who knows himself 100% and he accepts what he is, and there are times when he has a better grasp of the situation than the other characters.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
He's blindingly clever, but doesn't let on.
Yes. And that's, again, like, you don't have to do that here, but again, this is a trope that you see all the, like, this is basically the Hulk.
Yeah, it's totally the Hulk. And that's fine, because that's what the comic is, too. But the comic, there's way more layering, there's way more evolution for the character. Yeah. And in this, he's like the lovable oaf, you know, like, he's bad, but maybe if we just really speak to his humanity, he'll be good. Well, in the comic, he's bad as shit, man. Even when he's doing good, he's still fucking terrible. Have you ever read the second volume?
I have not.
Do you know anything about the end of The Invisible Man?
The actual ending?
No, in the end of the character.
Oh, the end of the character. Hyde kills him, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, it's more than that.
Does he dismember him?
So in the movie, the Invisible Man is like painfully heroic. It's one of those like, oh, he's the thief that saves the day in the end. In the comic, in the first issue that the League encounters the Martians, the Invisible Man's like, we're not going to win this. And the first chance he gets, he goes over and sides with the Martians and teaches them how to get past the defenses of Earth and get through like the River Thames so that the League can't take the Nautilus through there. And in the first volume, it's established that Hyde can see the Invisible Man because he right there.
That part. Oh, okay.
So there's a scene where he sees him in like Predator vision,
Uh-huh.
and he's like, Griffin's like, we have to move quickly. You started a fire. Oh, I can see that, Mr. Griffin. I'm not blind, you know. He goes, What? What are you looking at? Me? Nothing. And then in volume 2, after it's revealed that the Invisible Man betrays the League, he gets caught by Mina, like stealing shit from the museum. And so he just beats the shit out of her and like smacks her face on the ground. And then I think she pisses herself and like rubs her face in it. And he's like, you're a dirty little piggy, aren't you? And Hyde, who has become fond of Mina, like she's like the only one that can connect with him or whatever, because they're both outcasts from society. You know, she's the tainted divorced woman, and who had a scandalous encounter with a foreigner.
Yes.
And so they're both outcasts, so they kind of form a friendship. So when he sees what happens to Mina, Hyde just freaks out. And there's a scene where he like goes into the museum and he like locks the door behind him and he sits down, and it's just like this quiet scene of him sitting down alone. And he's like, you're thinking if I'm really still, he won't know I'm here. Now you're thinking he's bluffing. And he goes, but I assure you, Griffin, I'm not bluffing. I can see you. I've always been able to see you. And then it cuts to Hyde's vision, and it shows Griffin like against the wall, and he goes, that's not fair. and then he shows him like grab onto him, and he's like, oh, I guess you won't be needing this anymore. I'm like, crack. And then Griffin's like, ah. And then he's like, you shouldn't have done that to Miss Murray. Like she was a good person and all that. And you see him like throw him over a table, and he's like, look at that view. He's like, it's pretty lovely, isn't it, Griffin? He's like, in fact, I dare say might find it a bit romantic. And then he's like, no, stop. And then it cuts away. And then it shows, what's his name? Nemo having dinner with Hyde. And Hyde's telling his whole story about why Jekyll created him and why they are the way they are. And as he's talking, it's like this one shot of just him sitting there. And as he's sitting, slowly like blood starts to appear on his shirt. And then it like just coats the shirt and coats the table and everything. And what's his name? Nemo was like, Hyde, you're bleeding. He's like, what? Oh, no, that's not my blood. That's Griffin's. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I suppose that means he's expired now. And then you see Nemo like run out of the room, and like in the background while Hyde's talking, you see him run out of the room and then run back in with his sword out. And he's like, Hyde, what the hell did you do?
Oh my, that leaves a lot to the imagination. Heavily implied.
Yeah, I mean, just like, mauling and rape and, oh yeah, I think he eats some of him as well. I can't remember. But it's just like an atrocious ending for this despicable character, but it's done very tastefully.
All right. Revenge is sweet. Well, I know, and here the Invisible Man is portrayed to be as kind of like a lovable rogue.
Yeah, he's like a gentleman thief.
Yes. Yeah. But, like, in the comic book, like, he is straight up going through girls' schools, like, molesting.
Yeah. No, that's, like, raping. I mean, I think they say that there's 3 girls from the school that become pregnant by the Holy Spirit.
Right, yeah.
Miss Coots, like, School for Wayward Girls or whatever. And that character is actually a character from like, it was like a French pornographic character or something. It's like Eliza Coot or something like that, or I can't remember. But, exactly. He's just an atrociously unlikable character in the comic.
Not a good human being.
Which is why I fucking loved him. I loved he's such a fucking just despicable bad guy. And I like that they kept the grease paint, too.
That is a nice touch.
With the grease paint in the comic. Yeah. Rosa Coot, that was her name.
Rosa Coot. Well, I'm not up on my French pornography, unfortunately.
Justin Evans, man. Read the Justin Evans annotations.
Okay. It'll get you there.
I was going to say something else about the Invisible Man, but I don't know. Yeah, he's just like a sociopath, and I love how how the comic lets him be just a cruel bad guy. There's a point in the first volume where he beats a police officer to death with a brick just so he can take his coat because he's cold.
Yeah. Well, it's very much. I mean, I haven't read the book in a long time, but it's very much in line with the book.
Yeah,
because he was a bastard in the book, the original book.
Old tiger cinching the end at the most fierce.
Hmm? Your Scottish accent was too thick. I didn't understand what you said.
Tone it down, Sean.
I do like, though, that like in the inside of Nemo's sub, they have like the detail is really good on the sets.
Yeah, it's fucking huge though.
It is.
Way too big. I've been to Venice, okay? There's no way this fucking ship could go anywhere near Venice.
It would sink the city of Venice. I could just take out the foundation. Yeah.
And I mean, just the law of buoyancy. If you have that much of the ship above water, then there has to be what, like double that amount below the water or something?
Something like that, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a fucking scientist, but regardless, there's no way that thing could float and be as big as it is and go to Venice.
It is a palatial palace. It's like a cruise ship.
Yeah, again, it's a cool design, but the design in the comic is so much better because it actually looks like a chambered Nautilus.
Mm-hmm. It looks more like a submarine.
Well, yeah, it looks like a submarine, but it also literally looks like a Nautilus, the creature.
Yeah. Now, was that from the book too?
In the original book, there's no real pinned down design of what it looks like. There are some artists from like contemporary of the time that did versions of it, and everyone kind of has their favorite. I think most people think of the Disney James Mason, Peter Lorre, what's his name, Kirk Douglas version.
Yeah.
But I love the way it looks in the League in the comic because it looks like a chambered Nautilus and it has like tentacles that it can use to grab stuff and it looks like a submarine.
It does. Not so ostentatious.
Yeah. Yeah, again, it looks like, Titanic 2, Electric Boogaloo.
So, yeah, the whole part about the son-in-law, I totally forgot about this. Did they even bring up his son-in-law's name? Like, does he tie into
his son? What do you say, son-in-law?
I thought you just said
no,
that.
His son.
Excuse me.
I think in the comic, or not in the comic, I think in just the novels, I know he's had a couple of wives and probably some kids, but it's never brought up in the comic at all. But in like the King Solomon's Mines and those related sequels, he probably had some wives and kids, but it's never been that important.
Yeah. This is just to shoehorn in that father-son mentor relationship.
Yeah. Alan Quartermain's an interesting character just in general because I had no idea who the fuck he was before I read the comic when I was probably a freshman in college or whatever. But it's actually a character that has some pedigree with acting as well. Like, Sean Connery plays him. Patrick Swayze played him in a movie.
Oh, I did not know that.
Richard Chamberlain played him in a couple movies in the 80s that were like direct reactions to the Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Indiana Jones movies. Because those movies completely rip off Alan Quartermain. I mean, you can't have Indiana Jones without Alan Quartermain. So, I don't know, maybe it was Canon or some other studio ripped off Indiana Jones by making a series of Alan Quartermain movies.
No, you're right. He's a blueprint, definitely.
Yeah. Too soon, but that was bloody close.
All right, so...
Chill out? Is that what he said? Chill out! It's weird that they didn't translate or anything. Whatever. Teach your son to shoot like this. Hey, way to read the room, dickhead.
Yeah, and it's more, I guess, narrative devices that never come to fruition because, right, the whole idea was to have a sequel from this.
Oh, yeah.
And Shane West would kind of step into... It's kind of like the early layout for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah, exactly. One thing did you just notice when he was standing there alone, you could see behind him. One of the costume elements I liked about Sawyer is that he's wearing suspenders, but they're never on. They're always slung down. and they said that they designed that to be a suggestion of overalls.
Oh.
The little kid Tom Sawyer always wearing overalls. If as an adult, he's wearing the suspenders like slung down, like their overalls hanging down.
Okay, all right, that is a nice little touch.
Also, there's a deleted scene where he talks about why he's on the Phantom's trail. He said, like, I've been with the Secret Service, and I've been working with my partner, and I were getting close to him, but the Phantom killed my partner, and I'm gonna avenge Agent Huck Finn if it kills me. But the fact that they didn't put that in, I think, is better, because now he might not necessarily be Tom Sawyer. He could be Tom Sawyer Jr., which would fit with the timeline.
The timeline, with the period. Yeah. Tom Sawyer is many things, but Victorian he's not.
Yeah, this scene too. So I read the novelization of this book, of this movie, which is slightly better than the movie. But this scene right here, where he tricks her to get her blood by giving her that alcohol, he gives her like a little flask, he pours it into a little glass shot, and when she grabs it, he smashes it in her hand.
Oh yeah.
So then like the bloodlust takes over or whatever, so he can get some vampire blood. But in the novelization, when he talks about it, he's like, "You really must try this. It's like a great vintage Amontillado. I found it bricked up. I found a cask of it bricked up in the tunnels of Venice years ago."
Cask of
Amontillado.
Amontillado, yes.
The Edgar Allan Poe story.
Yes. I get self-conscious about Amontillado. I can never pronounce it. I'm like, Amotildo.
Oh.
That's okay. That's a sharp little addition that I really like.
Yeah, exactly. And the fun, I wish there was more of that in the actual movie, but again, that was in the comic. I mean, the novelization. Like, oh, I must not look at the painting. Then why did you have it on your wall? Dumb dick.
Yeah. I can barely trust myself to remember my keys. If I was in that position, I would look at that damn painting all the time. Like, oh shit,
There's the Amontillado I was talking about.
So tasty.
What is that? Is it brandy? Like, what is...
That's an excellent question.
I'm gonna have to close my... it's a type of wine. To close my page that had the pictures of Don Murphy up.
Alas.
Piece of shit. It's a sherry wine. And the Amontillado.
Fun to cook with, not fun to drink, at least from my experience.
It's characterized by its nutty aromas, tobacco, aromatic herbs, and often ethereal, polished notes of oak.
Ethereal?
It's got some ethereal oak in it. What the fuck? Like, who wrote this? This is Wikipedia. This shouldn't be flowery like that. It should be like a research paper.
See, I want a job writing descriptors for wine.
It's quite ethereal.
You can make up all sorts of shit, and as long as you make it sound delicious.
She looked at me!
Jason Fleming, he is such a... He's been in so much stuff, and everything he's in, like, he's fantastic.
Yeah. That actually reminds me, going back to Jason Fleming and Tony Curran. Tony Curran has been in multiple Marvel continuities.
Really?
Yeah. First movie I saw him in was Blade 2. He played Priest, a member of the Blood Pack. He was like an Irish vampire in that. Then he was in X-Men First Class as just a Secret Service guard who gets killed by Sebastian Shaw. So that's... Blade was like, I think, New Line, but a Marvel movie. X-Men was Fox, Marvel movie. Then he was in the Marvel Cinematic Universe proper as Odin's father in the second Thor movie. I can't remember that character's name. And then he was in the Punisher... No, Daredevil TV series as this character from the comic whose name I can't remember. So that's like the Marvel Netflix universe.
He gets around.
Yeah. He's a really good actor. I've seen him in a lot of shit over the years, and I really like him. I like Jason Fleming as well.
I'm trying to think. because now that we're talking about him, I know I've seen him, like, I've probably seen him in Daredevil and Blade 2, I just didn't know it was him. Yeah. So now I kind of want to go back and rediscover. Venice.
Right, here we go, ready? That's not possible!
Physics dictate.
Even the Grand Canal, it wouldn't fit through that. Man.
Oh, no.
Like, and definitely none of these fucking back streets.
Right? Yeah, that poor guy in his gondola would just be like,
yeah.
would just be completely total.
Smeared onto the side of the side of a building.
Right.
Tearing up streets and buildings.
The city would sink that much faster. Yeah. Seems a little disproportionate.
I'm going to show the lady in the raincoat from Don't Look Now.
That would be awesome. That would be a great crossover. Donald Sutherland like stumbles out a window. Yeah, I guess. Okay, that's a bad CGI. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Where do you see the bombs? Right here. Makes the city look so much bigger than it is.
Oh yeah, wait for it.
They're all ticking little ticking clocks here. God, that's dumb.
Because the average movie-going audience...
Ticking grows louder!
The average movie-going audience is too stupid to realize, like, hey, that must be explosives. It's not explosives without a ticking sound.
Woman speaking Italian. Woman, man, laugh. I've been there. I've actually been there. I've not been to this set. Because they didn't film there.
No.
One of the things the movie never addresses is... So they go to Venice because there's like a peace talk between world leaders. Mm. Is that real? I think they insinuate that it didn't really happen.
Yeah.
In the novelization, it does happen. And like the peace talks go on while the city's being destroyed. And like the leaders of like Germany, England, and like Russia or something are stuck in a bunker together and like have to hash out peace on their own while the city's being destroyed around them.
But no, I think you're right. I think it only comes up once in the movie and then it's never addressed again.
His helmet pieces, like the windows, look like TIE fighter windows.
I didn't notice, do they?
I don't know, they look like it to me.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I don't want to bash on the sets too much because there are some shots in here I think that, oh yeah, they did a pretty good faithful adaptation of the comic book. But like all of these, like London, Paris, Venice, they're all shot at night.
Yeah.
And they have very little to distinguish them from one another. Yeah. Except, there's water and
cobblestone streets.
Yeah.
Look at those explosions. God, it looks dumb. But I mean, that was, I guess that was the time. Like Victorian architecture, and there's not going to be a whole lot of variation in places.
Oh, no. I mean, and it doesn't have to be, but like, it's more the color palette to me. Like all the action scenes are at night.
Yeah.
And like you said, like
it's so stupid. Fire a rocket and blow up a building before the other buildings blow up,
which will somehow stop the damage of the
like dominoes.
Because why not?
I'm an immortal, not a gazelle. Here's my favorite line in the movie, though, and this is oft repeated between myself and my friend Bear. And now he knows how to race car drive.
Right.
Why would he say care for a spin? That's not a thing. Right, come on, Jekyll, get in. You check this thing? Okay, of course. Go back to Jekyll. Launch when you see the flare. Come on, Jekyll, we'll need Hyde. No, Hyde will never use me again. Right here. Ready? Then what good are you? And then he just stares at him while they drive away. Just needling him.
Stuart Townsend is obviously having a blast in this role.
So he, the character of Dorian Gray wasn't in the novel or the comic, but Dorian Gray is typically described as being blonde and youthful, and he doesn't look anything like that description in this. No. Do you know why? There's actually a reason for this.
Oh, do tell.
It was a fuck-up. On the cover of the first volume comic book, Dorian Gray, there is the picture of Dorian Gray there. That's Dorian Gray.
Yep.
So somebody, like one of the costumers or whatever, was given the comic and said, base it on Dorian Gray on the cover. He's in one of the pictures. So the person saw that and assumed that Varney the vampire there was Dorian Gray.
Okay, that's a pretty good mess up, though. I like that.
So yeah, Varney the vampire is... And realistically, I mean, they probably have about the same powers. It could be Varney the vampire. Except that they call him Dorian Gray.
Not too much of a difference.
These men are mine! Yeah, Mina does not have any powers in the comic. Mm-hmm. Because after Dracula dies, she doesn't have her powers anymore.
Right. Yeah,
if she even had any powers. I don't think she has any in the novels. She's just weak.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
But, in this, she's just a fucking vampire. Look, there's like 1 million dudes on the roofs with guns. How are there so many people?
How do they get around so fast?
It's such a dumb movie. It's fucking fun. In the comic, she doesn't have any powers. She's just a smart, resourceful person, which is why she's a leader. She's a tactician, you know. Mm-hmm. And in Volume 2, they show her neck. So she always has a red scarf around her neck in the comic. And in this, she does when she's Mina, not Vampire Lady. But one of the first things she does is show off her neck in this and see the 2 puncture marks. Well, in the comic, Alan Moore decided that if a vampire were to actually feed, it probably wouldn't be like that. They would probably be more like an actual vampire bat, in that the way vampire bats feed is they scrape the skin and then lap up the blood. Ouch. So when she shows off her neck in the comic, it's just a giant scarred up mess. And that's why she always has the red scarf like all the way around her neck. Mm-hmm. There's a really uncomfortable sex scene in Volume 2 where, because like Quartermain falls in love with her and they end up having a relationship, and his old frail body is all scarred up, and she's like, no, I'm ashamed of my scars. And he's like, no, it's fine. And he like takes her scarf off and starts licking her neck. And he's like, I don't.
Like you do, I guess. But yeah. That's kind of one of the just a neat storytelling aspect in the first volume is that like basically she's. In that time period, she's a ruined woman. Like you said, she's a divorcee, and like I think even Campion Bond like hints at the idea because he's a dick. He's like, well, he's violated by a foreigner, and
exactly.
You might have liked it, type of deal. Oh yeah, that does sound like a lot like someone chewing on your neck, as opposed to the sexy hypodermics. I don't know.
She's a really, really cool character in the comic. And one of the few that stays with the League for centuries.
Yeah, isn't there like a 1969 League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
So the third volume... the first volume is in 1898. Second volume is shortly thereafter. Then there's a mini, quote, volume called The Black Dossier that's set in 1948. And then there's a volume called Century that is 3 parts. Volume 1, or part 1 rather, is 1909. Part 2 is 1969, and then part 3 is 2009. Oh. And Mina and Alan are in all of those. They're like the only League members to carry over.
All right.
Because they go through the Fountain of Youth and stay young forever. But then Alan ends up... So, do you know anything about Century? Do you know who they face in that one?
I don't. Do tell.
So, 1969, they're trying to stop Oliver Haddo, who is Aleister Crowley's character from Moonchild.
Okay.
And his spirit goes off into the ether, and it's trying to find a host body. And there's a scene where they're at kind of Woodstock, but it's the person playing is Mick Jagger's character from the movie Performance.
Which I have not seen.
Yeah, me neither. And Mina, I think it's Mina, meets this guy there, and she asks him what his name is, and he goes, "Oh, like I'm going to be a professor at this school." He goes, "My first name is Thomas, but my last name is a mystery. Tom Riddle." Oliver Haddo gets into his body. So that turns him into Voldemort or whatever. Then in 2009, they actually fucking fight Harry Potter.
No.
Yeah. And Harry Potter's like the Antichrist. He's the moon child or whatever. And there's a fucking like magical school shooting at Hogwarts.
This sounds fantastic.
Yeah. And again, none of this, they can't actually say any of this. So it's just like, it's this weird wizard school. Like, I don't know. And they can't call him Harry Potter, but it is. And then Alan gets the upper hand, but then Harry Potter kills Alan. And then they finally have to call upon Mary Poppins to come down from like heaven, basically, and smite him. Like the Deus Ex Machina is Mary Poppins coming in from the blazing world to stop Harry Potter. Yeah.
That sounds better than any revamping of the story that J.K. Rowling has done online.
Exactly.
Oh. You don't know.
There he is. Throw the knife in his back.
Ow! That really hurt.
He does. So he just threw a knife at a fleeing man's back. Then he kills Moriarty by shooting him in the back.
Very unsportsmanlike.
Yeah, a lot of unsportsman violence happening here. The Phantom is him.
The very man who recruited us. And again, like, maybe to your average book nerd, you're like, oh, Moriarty, cool. But like you said, it's like in this context, it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's unearned.
Yes.
I like the character. I like the inclusion. There just should have been 15 seconds where they explain why that's important. By the way, he just crashed a car on top of an explosion.
And
he's got a little cut above his eye.
Little headache.
Just a badass cut.
Well,
Like, yeah, that'll scar over nicely.
let me lick it for you. And to nitpick again about those historical details, all right, he's got a car, but how fast could that car really go? Like maybe 20 miles per hour?
I don't know. I mean, I'll give that a pass because Nemo created it, and Nemo made the Nautilus, you know.
True.
I mean, there's a certain level of sci-fi suspension of disbelief. What I won't suspend my disbelief for is the design of the car. It looks like it's right out of the 1940s, you know, like that wasn't the aesthetic of the time.
No.
And like, it's fine to be speculative about your retro-futurism or something like this, but it's not, like, that's just ridiculous. There's one of the scrubbing bubbles guys.
It is a scrubbing bubble. Aw.
People say it looks like a, what's it called? In the sink, you know,
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
What the fuck is the one?
Little...
The thing that grinds up the food. What? Garbage disposal.
Garbage.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, people say it looks like a garbage disposal, but to me it's always looked like a scrubbing bubbles guy.
Yeah, I think it looks like a scrubby bubble. It's kind of cute.
Okay, I need to blow my nose, so I'm going to mute this real quick. Okay, I'm done. That's just for my own note, so I can mute that sound of me blowing my nose, because that's gross.
Tis the season.
Maybe I'll put a beep over it, like beep. A censor noise.
Make him wonder.
I just destroyed a chunk of Venice by parking it there.
This is off topic, but another rabbit hole. When were you in Venice?
I think I was on a senior in high school. I've been to Italy twice. But I've only been to Venice once. It's a cool city.
I'm jealous.
One of my favorite things about it was like a tour guide kind of led us there. It was a group I was with, and she was like, you can have a map if you want. Like, there's lots of maps you can get, but like, they're fucking useless. Like, this city is a fucking labyrinth, and if you don't know your way around, you're not gonna know your way around with a map. So just follow signs or ask directions. That's your best bet.
Yeah, very apt. It is, yeah. It's such
Twittering. You see the twittering? There's the twittering. Twittering ends.
Again, and then it ends.
That's how Twitter ends, with Nemo playing a disc. Like, a recording disc? Yeah, because you know what records were back then. Come on, Captain.
Yeah, if you can design that huge-ass underwater castle.
She said, Professor. Ready, Professor?
Uh-oh.
Professor James. Who could it be? I like this little stylish flashback here. I'm in black and white. So by now, I'm no loyal son of the Empire. In fact, my loyalty is to Mr. M.
Oh, I forgot about this. Yes, he snuck into Dorian Gray's and took the painting off the wall.
Yeah. Everything so far has been misdirection. Sanderson Reed, the assassins of Kenya. Your recruitment and mission, the secret conference, a myth. Oh, there we go. So the secret conference isn't real.
Lies.
Even the League itself, there is no League. Then why are all the paintings?
Yeah, that's a very elaborate hoax.
Yeah. And again, like in the comic, the League is a real thing. It's always been around, and it always will be. The first League was called Prospero's Men. Oh. It was Prospero from The Tempest and Caliban, and I'm sure a couple others.
So it has an established history already.
Well, my favorite volume of the League is Black Dossier. Mm-hmm. Like I said, it's set in 1940. Well, it's set after 1948. So it's set after the fall of the Big Brother government in England. In the comic, 1984 took place in 1948. Because that's when Orwell wrote it, that was his intention, just to flip the last two numbers of the year. So the 1948 became 1984, and now it's future. So in the comic, that takes place in 1948. It's all about the League trying to get this book called the Black Dossier that was taken by the Big Brother government. Big conspiracy theories and all this, but that volume is littered with historical documents, like you can read. Like, there's a play by Shakespeare about Prospero's Men or something like that. And I don't know if that's exactly right. But then there's like a Wooster and Jeeves story where they meet Cthulhu. And there's this section, like a 1984 style, propaganda comic from the department called Pornsec. It's like a little pornographic comic about not getting caught up in your feelings and sticking to your job and all that.
Something for everyone, really.
And then that volume ends with them going into the blazing world, and the last chunk is all 3D. It comes with 3D glasses.
Well, it sounds like I need to dive further into the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen here. Yeah. There's a lot I'm missing.
And one of the really cool things about 1984, that 1984 government, it implies that the first M is a guy named Bob Cherry, I think. Mm-hmm. I can't remember if that's a character from something else. But he is, he's originally the character Harry Lime from The Third Man.
Okay. Who
changes his name to Bob Cherry and then becomes Big Brother.
Uh-huh.
And in the comic, there's a slight implication that Harry Lime may have died in the tunnels, and that his persona was taken over by that other guy. What's the character's name? I'm gonna look up The Third Man for a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Oh yeah, they're sinking the Nautilus.
That classic Dorian Gray line, Bon voyage.
Bon voyage. Okay, so it's implied that possibly Harry Lime's identity was taken over by Sergeant Payne, who was there in the tunnels at the end of The Third Man. Sergeant Payne was played by Bernard Lee. Bernard Lee played M in the James Bond movies.
Okay. It all comes back around.
Yeah, exactly. That's how deep the connections go in the comic. Like, it's not enough just to reference the literary source now. You have to reference the literary source's adaptations that came years after the fact.
Makes sense. There's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah. And then, I think it's Century, when in 2009 they showed, there's like posters of like modern stuff. One of them is the movie Who Dat Ninja.
Who Dat Ninja?
Which is from 30 Rock, the show, you know?
I remember the show.
The character Tracy Morgan's character in that show, has like a bunch of fake movies that he worked on, called like Honky Grandma Be Trippin' was one of them. And then one of the other ones is Who Dat Ninja. There's a Who Dat Ninja poster in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
No way. Oh. Yeah, it really is just based on the structure of literature and pop culture. It's a series that can go on forever and ever. So here we see Mr. Hyde using his powers for good.
I don't know what he's doing here. For some reason, if he pulls those levers, the water goes out. Like, why didn't they just do that to begin with?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure.
It's very clearly just filmed normally and then put the water in after the fact. It's like, look at his mutton chops. They're not wet. See?
Nice and dry.
Dry as shit, man. This shot of the Nautilus coming out of the water was in the trailer, but it doesn't have any of that water around it. So it just like, it looks really cheesy. It's like, it looks really dumb.
Just a still placid surface.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
I mean, no, the water's there. I mean, the water like coming off of it.
Oh, excuse me. No, that still looks dumb. Yeah.
It doesn't look great in the finished product, but it looked way worse in the trailer. So does he just have a bunch of the same suits?
Apparently so. Yeah. When you Hulk out, you need to carry an extra set of clothes with you just in case.
I mean, I guess that's what I'd do. Why spend the time getting different suits when you know you're going to tear through it? You might as well just get like 100 of the same suit.
Right. And no sense in updating your fashion with the latest trends.
Oh, yes, when they reveal that the Invisible Man's stowed away.
Oh, that's right.
They talk about this in the commentary. You can see Jason Fleming is trying so hard not to laugh.
He is. What is that expression on his face?
He said they just had the giggles that day. And there's this part where they're like, Skinner, and he said that originally Shane West turned to him and went like, and then he just would fucking lose it. So every time since then, he was just thinking about that, and they just kept laughing, and so he's just sitting there like trying so hard not to giggle.
Keep it all together. Well, I'm glad that some people had fun making this movie.
Yeah, realistically, it sounds like the only people that just hated it were Sean Connery and the director. Which, it's a fucking shame that Stephen Norrington went out with this.
Right.
Because he's a director that had a really interesting voice in his movies. Blade started the modern comic book blockbuster.
True.
He directed Blade. His movie that I mentioned a couple weeks ago, Death Machine, was fucking amazing. I watched the director's cut of it, the full widescreen version, uncut, and it's fucking amazing. And there are some shockingly good like camera movements and scenes. There's this one scene, I actually had to pause it because I was watching it with Bear. I had to pause it and like point it out. I was like, look at that! Where it's a 3-shot of William Hootkins, the female lead, whose name I can't remember, and Brad Dourif. It's the 3 of them in silhouette. The focus is on her in the middle. Then it shifts focus to Brad Dourif. Then it shifts focus to William Hootkins. Like without any cutting. It's just focus shift, then focus shift. And the distance they are, that's really fucking hard to do. And I was like, oh, did you see that? And I was like, what? Like, the fuck? Like, that was amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like he's a guy with a lot of talent who just got burnt out by the system, unfortunately.
Yeah. After this, there was talks of him doing a Crow reboot for years, and that dried up. That went the way of all the other Crow reboots over the last 15 years.
Yeah, which might be for the best, I don't know.
His version sounded the most interesting of all of them, with one huge movie-ruining problem. In that. So, his version, the Crow, was going to be like a gangbanger who gets killed in like a drive-by, like him and his family, I think, and the Crow comes back. Like, that's an interesting take on it, and it would have been, like, if nothing else, just look-wise, it would have been interesting to have like a black lead in the Crow franchise. All the other Crow actors pretty much look the same. So that would have been kind of interesting. But the person that was going to be cast was DMX. And like, no, just literally anyone else.
Yeah,
Come on, man, get an actor. There's plenty of actors.
No offense, DMX, but no. Like, wrong animal. Oh, dear. No. I didn't stop and think about it, but you're right. Like, every Crow that's come after the first one, they all make him look like Brandon Lee. And it's like, stop, don't do that.
I actually just watched the entire Crow franchise.
Did you really?
All in one day. With incredibly diminishing returns.
How many are there? There's 4 or 5?
There's 4, yeah. First one's great. Second one is good. Its ending kind of lets it down, but the second one has a really cool look. Got a great cast featuring Tom Jane and Iggy Pop.
That's right.
Third one is like straight to video Drek. Fourth one is one of the worst things ever made.
Don't waste your time. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that we're talking about this because I was listening to, what is it, The Crow City of Angels? I was listening to the soundtrack on the way here.
Yeah, it's a good soundtrack.
And who does the production design for it? Because the production design looks awesome.
I have no idea.
It's someone, well, I'll have to look it up later, but I remember in the sequel, like, the movie looking good and sounding good.
Yeah, exactly. And the second one's fine. I mean, it's a deviation on the first. It's basically the same story. The only thing that I will give the second one over all of the other movies in the franchise is that it's not his girlfriend or wife that gets killed. It's his son.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay.
And like that's at least a bit more interesting than another dead love or another dead girlfriend or
yeah, girlfriends and wives just don't stand a chance in that franchise.
Yeah, exactly. But the third movie in that franchise, called Salvation, is based on a book that I actually tracked down and bought after I watched the movie because it sounds way fucking more interesting than the actual movie. The book is about an S&M photographer whose boyfriend is murdered. Oh. And he is accused of it and gets executed. And then he comes back, teams up with his ex-boyfriend's transgender sister, and they solve the murder.
Fuck yeah!
Yeah. And that was written in like 1996 or something.
Yeah.
By an author who at the time was named Poppy Z. Bright. But he is transgender and changed his name since then. And I can't remember what his name. I don't know if he's still writing or not. But yeah, back then he was credited as Poppy Z. Bright.
Oh, there he is.
Billy Martin is now.
Billy Martin.
I guess he professionally still known as Poppy Z. Bright. Yeah, and that's just like such a way more interesting take on The Crow.
Right.
A gay S&M photographer trying to solve the murder of his boyfriend, hanging out with a transgender girl. Like that's what this franchise should be doing. I
want to read that.
Yeah. So I found a copy of it. It's called
I'm gonna read
Lazarus Heart.
Lazarus Heart.
Good luck fucking finding it, by the way. You want to see how much it goes for on Amazon?
I do.
Let's see. Crow Lazarus Heart. Well, if you want it on paperback, $864.
No way.
That's okay because they have it on hardcover too. It's $58. Damn, that's a lot cheaper. Because I saw another copy of it was like $864.
That's a little discrepancy there in price.
Oh, mass market paperback is $809.
Jesus Lord.
I don't know. I found a used copy on eBay for, I think I paid $12 for it.
Yeah, there seems a little
and I talked the guy down a little too because I did a best offer. So I think I got it for even cheaper than he was selling it. It's still on there. But anyway, yeah. It just arrived in the mail a few days ago, so I'm excited to dive into Poppy Z. Bright's Crow Lazarus Heart. There's a whole series of Crow novels actually, in the late 90s, early 2000s. That one, so Crow Salvation was based on that novel, but it was uncredited. And then Crow Wicked Prayer was based on another novel in that series, also uncredited.
Okay. I didn't realize there were so many books.
Yeah. Crow Wicked Prayer, I didn't either. Actually, my friend Bear mentioned it. So I looked into it and was like, I gotta read this fucking book.
I'm kidding.
But yeah, Wicked Prayer is fucking terrible. It's like one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Alas. Like they just did not care by that
Well,
point.
it's got an interesting nugget of a story because it's set on like a Native American reservation, but then it like goes into like this weird like satanic gang that's trying to raise the devil, and the bad guy's played by David Boreanaz, and then like the leader of that gang is played by Dennis Hopper.
Huh.
But the hero, like the heroic native character or whatever, is played by Edward Furlong.
Oh.
Like, it's one of those, like, you couldn't cast an actual native actor.
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, 6 native actors in this fucking movie. Like, you can't cast one of them in the lead. Like, and in 2003 or 4 or whatever, was Edward Furlong really that big of a get?
Right. Yeah. Where was Adam Beach busy or?
Yeah, exactly. Christ, he would have been perfect.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for that man to get a proper lead role in any Hollywood movie, like action, rom-com. I don't care.
What? Suicide Squad wasn't good enough for you?
No. I was like so excited that he was in that, and then he's the first poor bastard to die.
Here comes Slipknot, the man who can climb anything.
Except when we kill him prematurely.
But also, I mean, that's Slipknot's role. He's the first one to go in the comic.
I know.
Except he gets his arm blown off instead of his head.
Still, it's like, oh.
So, like, when they announced, well, I know what's going to happen to Slipknot. But, yeah, I mean, it would have been nice for Adam Beach to have a little bit more of a role in that.
See, I didn't know he was playing Slipknot at first. I was just like, oh, this is great. Adam Beach is going to be in it. And then I started to watch it, and it was like, oh, this is Slipknot. I was like, fuck.
He's introduced via voiceover, like, not even voiceover, like ADR, you know? Like, gets up, oh, there's Slipknot, the man who can climb anything. Thanks for saying that. Who are you talking to?
That was really important.
Yeah. Why is he needed? It's the biggest issue with the Suicide Squad movie. Why is anyone needed in that story? They're fighting supernatural forces. The team was created to kill Superman. And they've got a guy that can throw boomerangs pretty good. A guy that can shoot things pretty good. A woman who wears hot pants and has a baseball bat. A guy that can climb things. A pretty tough crocodile man. Like, none of those are a fucking threat. Show me one character in Suicide Squad that Superman wouldn't just break their neck, like with his finger.
They don't exist, yeah. No doomsdays in that lot. Yeah.
And that's just it. Like, Suicide Squad shouldn't be going up against A-list heroes. Like, they should be doing Black Ops missions.
Right.
And stealing secret formulas or assassinating scientists or whatever. Like,
exactly. Toppling governments, you know.
Yeah. I think I read that the plot of the new movie is they're, like, breaking into, like, an old Nazi, like, cloning facility or something.
Oh.
And, like, trying to blow it up or something. I can't remember. I may have just invented the cloning thing, but I'm pretty sure I've read something about that. Like an old Nazi super science facility.
Well, it sounds like, again, Mr. Gunn has a much better grasp of how to use those characters.
Yeah.
So now, where are they?
Phantom's mansion in Mongolia, I think.
Mansion lair?
Yeah. Oh, he's shaving his face. Now it's clear that he's Moriarty.
Dun, dun, dun.
There's
Which,
Max Ryan.
if you stop and you think about, again, the timeline, which might not be that important, but it's like, how long would it take him to grow his beard out like that?
Whose beard?
Moriarty.
What do you mean?
Oh, you know, the idea, I know it was fake and
Oh,
whatnot,
gotcha.
but it's like, okay, that was a bad disguise. Like, your Santa Claus beard.
He also looks like he's about 30.
He does.
Moriarty's supposed to be older. Again, like, is this supposed to be supernatural? Like, that man died. Okay, this part right here, there's a whole subplot that was cut out of this movie. But at the beginning, when he blows up the blimps, there's a doctor he talks to named Carl Draper. And right here, like, there was a subplot about Carl Draper's daughter, Eva Draper, like, joining M and, like, betraying her father or something. And she's in a couple scenes, and then she shows up right here and tries to kill Tom Sawyer, and he knocks her out. But when they were making the movie, like, this doesn't make any sense. So they cut her out and then just rotoscoped a guard over her. In just a second, I don't know, after they fight Iron Man here. Yeah, I've never understood why she was even in, and she's in the novelization. Like, they retain that subplot, but it doesn't add anything to the story at all. It doesn't have a payoff. It doesn't have any suspense. Like, there's just no reason for this character to be in there.
So, well, I wonder why they even bothered.
No idea. Maybe it was a remnant of another draft. This thing went through dozens of drafts as well. I wonder at the end if James Robinson even really wrote any of it.
That's a good question.
Would you prefer Professor James Moriarty?
Dun, dun, dun.
James Moriarty, the Napoleon of crime. That man died at Reichenbach Falls. Okay, right there. That's supposed to be Eva Draper creeping up on him. And you can see that he doesn't really blend in with the background.
No, he really doesn't.
He really loves throwing knives. Anyway, yeah, so why is he Moriarty? Why did he figure it out? Did he die at Reichenbach Falls? Did he come? I don't know. One thing I will give Richard Roxburgh in this movie, though, is he goes through like 4 accents. And he's pretty good with all of them.
Yeah.
Like with Moriarty, he's like almost kind of Cockney. When he's M, it's very, very what's the word? Like very upper crust British. And then when he's the Phantom, he's like, yeah. What does he says? Like, fuck, I don't know. Then he has a line earlier like, Mr. Quatermain. Oh, is it? That's so frightening.
It's some type of fearless leader.
Yeah. Vaguely, threateningly foreign.
Yeah. And poor Richard Roxburgh. I mean, I know the guy's had a pretty good career, but it's like he was coming up in Hollywood here, and I feel like he just... I mean, again, like you're an actor. You take the roles that are offered, you get a chance to work with some really cool people. But he just got kind of stuck in these villain roles where he was mostly turned up to 11, like a lot of the time. Like in Van Helsing, like his Dracula is so over the top. And then, of course, Baz Luhrmann being Baz Luhrmann, he's totally over the top in
Because you can!
Absolutely. I love that movie, but it has a bad case of ADD.
ADD is the only thing I fucking liked about it. I mean, the first time I watched it, in like the first 5 minutes, I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. And then I was like, oh wait, this is just going to be Romeo and Juliet after that? Like,
It is the energy that propels it forward.
I see more Jim Broadbent just dancing around like a wild man.
Right. And he was giving it his all. He was doing his thing.
So this part right here, when she pins him to the wall, I guess we'll get to it in a minute. Run, Richard!
Faster! No.
Oh, and then right here, when the Invisible Man attacks, what's his name? Fucking Tom Sawyer, right here. Plump. Like Skinner. It's like, no, not Skinner. In the novelization, they actually explain who this is. It's Sanderson Reed, the dude that talks to... Yes, it Reed's voice. But they don't say that in the actual movie. It's just some other invisible guy. But in the novelization, he's like, it is I, Sanderson Reed. Like, I'm working with M. I've got the League together, and now I shall be your doom. Something like that.
Just a little nice piece of exposition for us.
That may be some paraphrasing there.
Very well paraphrased. Oh, stabby.
Pretty fucking dumb. Clunk. Clunk.
I am Iron Man. Yeah. Totally.
Hey, he's bulletproof, idiot.
Yeah. So, sorry, Vertigo. This is one where Marvel did it better. Yeah.
So League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was not originally a Vertigo comic. It was published by America's Best Comics.
Yes.
And I think now it's published by Knockabout Press or Knockaround Press, something like that. But the first 2 volumes were republished by Vertigo. And I'm sure that just chaps Alan Moore's ass. Because he hates DC.
He does, doesn't he?
They fucked him over. Again, I mean, this is a guy that has been fucked over a lot by people who purport to support him, you know? Mm-hmm. Like the studio fucked him over. DC fucked him over with the royalties and rights for Watchmen. Did you ever hear about that?
I have a tertiary understanding of it.
His contract with Watchmen says that DC will own the rights to the characters until it goes out of print. Once the volume goes out of print, he can gain back all the rights to the characters that he created. And he said he signed it, like, perfect, all right. Because at the time, a comic book would come out. If it was successful and like a single story like that, they'd produce a graphic novel and then it would just go away. He didn't realize that DC had written that just so they could then never take it out of print. So they would retain the rights to these characters like in
perpetuity.
Perpetuity, there you go. And that he would never get them back. And so that when he discovered that, he was like, God, like all right, good job, you got me. Okay, so right there when he gets stabbed, originally the sword came out of his back. And they had to digitally remove it because the censor said it was too gory. Which explains how she stabbed him to the wall.
Right. Right. Wait.
And this would have been so much better if he was looking at his painting, she pulled out the sword, stabbed him through the back, and it went through him and stabbed the painting.
That'd be cool.
And then killed him, Because, again, the looking at it, that's so fucking dumb.
It is.
In the original book, he dies by, slashing the painting, right?
Something like
and
that.
It kills him.
Yeah.
I think in some adaptations he burns it or whatever. But it's supposed to be like their symbiotic relationship. You kill the painting, you kill him.
Mm-hmm. And here, it's just a nice Photoshop effect.
I just think that would have been cool if he got his painting back, he was looking at it, and confronting his own sins, and then Mina stabs him and stabs the painting, and then he watches it grow young as he dies.
That would have been much more poignant, yes.
But hey, what do I know, Fuck me, right? I mean, come on.
According to John Murphy.
Don Murphy. Probably, I don't say this lightly, probably the single worst person to ever live.
Worse than Hitler?
Have you ever seen that Office episode when it's talking about Toby, the HR guy? Mm-hmm. And Michael's like, if I was in a room with Bin Laden, Hitler, and Toby, and had 3 bullets, I'd shoot Toby 3 times.
Oh, Toby. Must be a real asshole. Oh, I forgot about this part.
Oh, yeah. Wait, here we go. I love this when he goes to slash the evil Hyde. Max Ryan's Dante.
Okay.
Dante! Oh, come on, show it. It's like a fucking, like a Mickey Mouse cartoon effect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There he is.
Well, that's not what I was talking about. But there's what other movie is that? There's a creature in another movie that looks exactly like this. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head now. Fuck, I don't remember. It's something recent. Mm-hmm. Looks exactly like Evil Hyde or Evil Hyde. I don't know.
Evil Hyde.
It's me on a bad day.
Yeah, a lot of CGI mishmash here.
It's just the best when Nemo goes up and starts slashing at evil Big Dante.
Just hacking at him like a Christmas tree.
Well, it's like it looks so stupid. It looks like a cartoon.
He just fillets him. So how old was Sean Connery here then? Roughly?
I want to say 70 something. Well, he just died and he was 90. This was 16 years ago, 17 years ago?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, right here. Here he goes. He knocks Hyde back and then whoosh, right here, right? And he goes faster, faster, faster. Look at the arm. It's not connected to anything. Look at that.
Do you remember Robin Hood Men in Tights?
Yeah.
Yeah, the blinking.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dear. See, then I love this, how, the huge, roaring monster just, sneaks up on him.
Yeah, of course. It's like Constantine in the Quiet Cars. See, it looks like he just stabbed him in the face. Like he just stabbed through the hand into Hyde's face.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
See, dug that sword in pretty deep.
Yeah. It's like, why would you do that? You will not live beyond today.
One of the few roles that Connery took after this was he actually voiced James Bond in the video game From Russia with Love.
I did not know that.
It's like a video game adaptation of the movie, and he came back to voice the role.
Is it a good game? Have you played it?
Yeah, I mean, it's old. It was from 2005, I think. And it was pretty good at the time. One of the better Bond games. James Bond video games run the gamut from unplayably bad to the best games ever. Fuck, man. GoldenEye? Oh, Jesus. That was just the shit back in the day.
A lot of fun for the time.
Yeah. I spent probably days of my life playing that game. And that was when multiplayer was fun. Sit in a room with a bunch of people playing the game and not, getting yelled at and called racist slurs by 12-year-olds on the internet,
Oh, good gracious, man.
That's all. I mean, that's all online gaming or multiplayer gaming is now. It's just kids screaming at each other on Xbox Live or whatever.
Dang, I didn't realize that the community was so hardcore.
It's not. They think. I mean, it's like a fucking comment section.
Really, more bark than bite.
I just watched, Hot Ones, Sean Evans. I just watched Brie Larson's episode.
Mm-hmm.
It was done during quarantine, and he says, you once said that the only place you like the comments sections of is Reddit. And she goes, well, that's not true. And she goes, I don't know. I probably said that like 8 years ago. She's like, because I used to love Reddit and I was all over it and I loved sharing that. I loved chatting with people on there. She goes, but that's changed dramatically.
Oh, man, that sucks. Poor Brie Larson.
But I mean, that's the nature of comment sections in general.
True, yeah. Everyone's a critic. Hold on, that's too high praise for some.
Yeah, I'm saying, I'm no critic of Brie Larson. She's fucking awesome.
I like her. I am not a huge fan of the Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah. I liked it a lot. One of the things I really liked about it, and kind of, again, like contrasting with Birds of Prey, is that her being special, like the superpowers that she gets, like that, like it literally could be anyone. It's just a twist of fate that she was there. Mm-hmm. And it's not like her fighting against the patriarchy or whatever. It's like, it's her just becoming a hero. Right. It could have, that's essentially the same story as Captain America. Like the underdog fighting, just being a good person. And there is the kind of feminist, I don't know, take on it because she's a female in a male-dominated franchise, I guess. So like that's going to be a part of it. But I don't know. I really like the way it was done, and I like seeing a character whose internal strength is like their defining characteristic. Like I think that makes a good hero.
It does. I agree. And again, I give that movie props for, like you said, she's not the special. Yeah. She's just a person who happened to be at this particular time in these circumstances. It was a good Marvel movie. It wasn't a great Marvel movie.
It was still essentially an origin movie, which those are kind of a dime a dozen. But I like that it was mostly only origin and flashback, and I don't know. I liked a lot about it.
Yeah, good action movie. Yeah. I won't take that away from her.
And I don't know, I like her. I think she was good in the role. I think she fits it well.
She does.
She brings enough like wide-eyed optimism, but then like mixes it with some world weariness. Mm-hmm. Oh, there goes Sean Connery. He just died. It's okay because Africa will not let him die. Did we try burying Sean Connery in Africa? Why didn't he get taken back there and buried?
Good point.
It's not too late.
Hurry.
I'm sure the first thing that Sean Connery would say if he was brought back to life is like, why did you do that? Right. Like, I'm 90 years fucking old. Like, I lived an amazing life. Right. Let me rest, you pieces of shit.
You assholes. Selfish assholes. Yep. I'm just, not to put too fine a point on it, but like, Africa won't let me die. It's like, I'm sure the hundreds of millions of black people who've lived there over the ages are like, you're welcome. Yeah.
Oh no, this guy's so special. The white guy that came over here and killed all of our elephants. We better make sure he lives.
Gotta keep him around.
Yeah, I mean, the character of Alan Quartermain is plenty problematic. The old H. Rider Haggard novels, like King Solomon's Mines or whatever. I mean, I'll give him props for actually featuring, black characters that weren't mustache-twirling villains or just dumb sidekicks. Like, there were nuanced black characters in those stories, but it was still focused on a white dude just going around shooting stuff.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Well, then that's pretty much all of Victorian literature. Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Yeah, hell, even the story of Dracula has plenty fear of foreigners just baked into that narrative.
Watch out. Wee bit of xenophobia.
So I just rewatched the 1930s Invisible Man movie.
Did you?
Yeah, it's really fucking good. That's probably my favorite of the Universal Monsters movies.
I haven't seen it since I was probably, I don't know, like still in the single digits, like maybe 8 or 9.
That's good. And obviously this year we had the new Invisible Man movie with Elizabeth Moss, directed by Lee Winnell, which was really fucking good.
Amen.
It's a character, like I said, I don't know if it's because of the League or what, but it's a character that I've always liked. Like, I just love the idea of an evil Invisible Man.
It's...
It looks shitty.
For those listening, that last scene did look very shitty. Trying to lead us into a sequel that will never be.
Did you ever hear about the original ending?
No, what was the original ending?
After they bury Quartermain, they're met by Campion Bond, who was actually cast in the role was Jason Isaacs.
Oh.
Who walks up and says, like, we need your assistance. Like, we've found... there's basically invaders from Mars. We need the help of the League. And they're like, but the League never existed. He's like, well, it does now. Like, the government, British government has said that you're officially, in service to Her Majesty, and we need your help. And they're like, well, okay, leading to the sequel. And I read an interview with Jason Isaacs around the time where he said that he was sad that he didn't get to do the role. And he goes, because it just had a great line where they ask who I am, and I say, the name's Bond. Campion Bond.
That would have made the whole thing worth it.
Yeah. He doesn't look anything like Campion Bond, but
no.
Campion Bond's a big fat shit with a goatee.
Yeah.
He just looks sleazy.
He does. But, Jason Isaac, he's one of those, he turns up in a movie and you're like, oh, there you are. Good to see you.
He's a goddamn treasure. I love that guy.
He's cool.
First time I ever saw him in a movie was Event Horizon. When
That's right.
I was probably in 6th or 7th grade. And I just remember watching it and being like, fuck, he's cool.
He is cool.
Of course, singing in African dialect. Some just killer subtitles in this flick.
Indeed. He was, that stupid movie with Charlize Theron and Keanu Reeves. I can't even remember the name of it. It was just so forgettable. Sweet November.
Oh, never saw it.
Well, you don't need to. But anyway, Jason Isaac is in it, and he plays her, of course, gay, cross-dressing neighbor. And the whole movie should have been about him, because he's fantastic.
I really liked him on Star Trek Discovery.
Oh, who did he play in that again?
He was the captain.
That's right.
Can't remember the captain's name, but yeah, he was really good in that. There's a nice big reveal halfway into the series about who he really is.
Well, I have such a hard time keeping all of my Star Trek straight, honestly.
Yeah.
But I would watch him in that. He was the most powerful thing I felt about Braveheart 2, The Patriot.
The Patriot.
Yeah.
There actually is a Braveheart sequel?
No, there is not.
Starring Angus McFadden, is that him? Because everyone knows Braveheart, but do you know that Braveheart doesn't refer to William Wallace?
No, it's Robert the Bruce,
Yeah,
isn't it?
right. Yeah, exactly. Robert the Bruce. So Robert the Bruce is played by Matthew McFadden. Matthew McFadden? Angus McFadden. Fuck. Too many McFaddens. Yeah, so Robert the Bruce is played by Angus McFadden in Braveheart. That guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a movie that just came out this last year called Robert the Bruce.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
It's essentially a sequel to Braveheart.
I wonder if it's any good.
I know, probably not.
One hopes, but...
Hey, Jared Harris is in it.
Jared Harris. Remind me.
Jared Harris, man.
Oh, yeah, okay, yes. Pardon me.
Fucking, what's his name? Son of Richard Harris.
No, that makes sense. I didn't know that, but I was like, yeah, okay.
Jared Harris was also Moriarty in Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows.
He was. I loved him in that.
And then he played Sherlock Holmes in... no, I don't know.
I was like, oh.
I was just trying to casually disprove your theory. I don't know.
Nice attempt.
Hey, he may have played Sherlock Holmes at some point. Who knows?
I can't remember the name of the character he played in Mad Men, but I loved him in that show. Yeah.
I'm going to Google real quick. Who has played Sherlock Holmes? Oops. I said Holes. Sherlock Holmes. That's a totally different movie.
That is indeed. Ooh.
And Moriarty. List of actors. Come on. No, I want both. Damn you.
Oh,
Professor Moriarty, many actors who played Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Moriarty.
here we
Wait,
go.
or is that Dr. Watson? Yeah, it's Dr.
Oh,
Watson.
shoot.
You fuckers.
Darn it.
Hey, there we go. Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. Best of the bunch.
That was such a horrible movie.
I did not see it.
You're not missing much.
Hey, the end credits are still going, just for anyone listening. No, I still enjoy this movie, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I did a total turnaround on it a few years ago. Because like I said, I fucking hated it when it first came out. I was just angry. I actually got like this was summer 2003. I was in a production of Annie Get Your Gun. This huge cast. And like all my friends in the cast was like, let's go see the movie, guys. And like we went in there, I'm like, just so you know, it's probably not going to be any good. Like, I have to see it, and I need you all here with me. But I don't feel like it's going to be any good.
Just be supportive of me right now.
But one of the best things about it, too, when this came out, and Sean Connery was forced to, like, at gunpoint to do press for this.
Oh, no.
Right before the movie, like, the day the movie came out, he was on, like, the Today Show or something. Mm-hmm. And they asked him, like, ooh, so you think there's going to be a sequel? Ooh, what do you think? And he was like, I don't know, there might be a sequel, but I'm not going to be in it because I die at the end.
He's like, and I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. Like, maybe there's a sequel, but I'm not going to be in it because the lead actor gets killed off. Spoilers!
Yeah. It's like, I'm done with this shit.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Yes, we're kind of on opposite ends of the pole here because when this movie first came out, I was like, oh, this is a blast. I love it. It's a lot of fun. And so many years later, again, I still enjoy it, but I'm like, oh, wow, that's nowhere near as good as 18-year-old me thought it was.
Yeah, exactly. And this is objectively not really a good movie. It's just dumb fun. You know?
Yes.
Everyone needs some dumb fun. It's either this or Transformers. You know?
Right.
Speaking of, Transformers, also produced by goddamn Don Murphy.
Aha! There's an evil plot.
Yep. So I would probably call this a Verta slow.
I would too. I think that's a perfectly fine summation.
It's middle of the road. Again, I enjoy it, but it's not good. Sometimes you just need to eat a greasy, shitty cheeseburger.
Exactly. It's like, this is the movie that you can totally turn on, get up to make popcorn while it's still playing, come back, and you'll be fine.
I think there's like the sound of like chanting or thunder or something right here, like implying that the good old Quartermain's gonna come back swinging.
The tribal medicine man is still at it.
The racist caricature is still dancing a jig in the background. Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, end of the show time. It's definitely a Verta slow. It's a Verta slow. Like and subscribe. Share this podcast with all of your idiot friends.
All of your lovely relations. Tell us if you have any suggestions about what we should read or watch next.
Yeah. Follow us on Twitter at Vertigo Voices. I'm going to let you say the other one.
And Instagram, just Vertigo Voices.
Yeah. And email us at vertigovoices@gmail.com, which still sounds weird to say. There's too many ats in that sentence. And I don't like it. Special thanks to whoever wrote the music for the beginning of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen DVD menu, because that's our theme music now. We did it.
We did. It's extraordinary.
Extraordinary gentlemen indeed. Okay, go read the comic. It's way better than this.
Indeed.
It's a big vertigo.
Absolutely. Keep listening. Keep reading.
Keep watching. Keep watching Captain Nemo do kick flips and kung fu. Goodbye.
Bye.